Good morning, gearheads. Welcome to the Speed City F1 pre-race show for the 12th round of the 2025 Formula One season, with the British Grand Prix just 1 hour away. I hope you have yourself a fresh cup of coffee as we try to convey the history of one of the most historic races on the F1 calendar. This is Jon Massengale. I am the gentleman driver of the team, if you will, but not to worry. I am joined by the professionals, starting with my friend across the table from me here in the studio in Austin, Texas, one of the most recognizable voices of two- and four-wheel motorsports, and former ESPN pit reporter, Jonathan Green. Good morning, Jonathan.
Morning. It's the British Grand Prix, and it's the 75th anniversary of Formula One. This is a big day for the sport.
That's right. And I want to ask you about the fact that it's the 75th. I mean, the history of this sport, the first Formula One Grand Prix ever in 1950 here at Silverstone.
Yeah. Obviously there was motorsport before the World Championship began, and we had places like Brooklands and Aintree and so on and so forth. But Silverstone's where it made its home, and it's also where the World Championship began back in 1950. And we've never looked back. And in fact, this and Monza are probably the two constants on the calendar. Monaco obviously has its own special place. But there is no question that the history of the British Grand Prix is fabled almost. And of course, you've got 9 of the 10 teams pretty much with a base within 30 miles, and some at Silverstone themselves, like Aston Martin. So, and Jordan before that. So, it really is a special place to be. Brackley is just literally a hop, skip, and a jump. And so every pub, every place you go has some sort of motorsports feel to it. And if you do go to a pub or a restaurant, you're going to bump into half of Formula One's world.
Yeah, and also based there is the new Cadillac Formula One.
Oh, yes.
We got some good American news this morning as well.
Very good.
We have a really special interview from the winner of the Formula 2 sprint race, Jack Crawford, the American.
Feature race. He won the feature race. Yeah.
Yes.
So more points, actually.
Yeah, even more. Well, also, a man who needs no introduction to Formula One fans, America's legendary voice of motorsport, Bob Varsha, joining us from Atlanta. Bob, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing just great, thanks. British Grand Prix, as you've said, red letter day for everybody in Formula One. Let's go racing.
All right. Jonathan, 1950 was the first one in Silverstone, and I'm really glad that you've set it up this way. Where were you sitting that day? Were you commentating?
There was some bales towards. It was a little windy, a little gusty. I had a job as a part-time wind speed director. It was an old World War II airfield. And in fact, that actually is the story of motor racing back in the mid-50s, when there was this changeover from sort of racing around streets or racing around forests, as they did at Pebble Beach. A lot of Sebring is a good example here in the States, another Air Force base.
Yeah.
So basically, because they were disused straight after World War II, there's a real synergy actually between World War II, the pilots, the sort of hero worship of the guys that drove the Messerschmitts and drove and flew the Spitfires and so on.
You got to throw in the Spitfires in the history of World War II with the British Grand Prix.
Yeah. But, so that's kind of where it all came out of, which was ex-airfields. And so Silverstone just was one of those. And we jokingly, I'm sure you've noticed over the weekend, everybody talks about the weather. But I can attest that Silverstone does have its own biosphere in some ways. It can be raining literally at Stowe at one corner at the far end of the track and nothing at the other end.
Well, we have our weatherman on the ground at Silverstone to give us a report of the weather. Chris Medland, how are you this morning?
I am very good, team. You are spot on, though, to talk weather right now. It has been hammering it down all morning.
No.
And then right now, the sun's out, but I'm carrying my coat because I'm out of the media centre. I'm getting ready to go through into the pit lane. And it's forecast to start raining again heavily just as the pit lane opens at 20 past the hour.
Oh,
so
great.
we're waiting for this band of rain to hit. So it's going to soak the track again. I'm certainly going to have a wet start. But when the sun's out, it's quite nice and warm. So I think this is going to be one of those wet start, drying races.
What are the beautiful people going to do if it rains on the grid?
Well, do you know, I'm not a beautiful person, but I now have the added challenge that for 5 minutes, I'll be disappearing to do a little F1 TV hit. And they don't use coats. So I'm
What?
running around in my coat trying to keep my radio kit dry. Well, they get umbrellas for them, don't they? They get it covered. So
That
I'll be trying
Laura
to keep
Winter,
all the
she's
radio
very
kit dry.
resourceful.
Exactly. And then I'll be... so if I don't return, it's because I've drenched the microphone, but hopefully it will survive.
Did you say umbrella?
Yes, brolly.
Brolly.
Okay, I was just making sure that you were saying the right terminology for the British Grand Prix. So
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of them this weekend, I can tell you that. Genuinely, I'm stood in an absolutely packed paddock. It is heaving. Anyone who listened to our show yesterday after qualifying will know that my signal dropped in and out a bit. Well, it won't even drop in today. I've had to go and stand at Aston Martin to get their Wi-Fi, and there's just people everywhere.
hey, Chris, what did you say?
At 1:30 I'll be going.
Okay.
It'll be 1:30 the hour. So,
Okay.
yeah, perfect break time for us.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. Well, I was asking because we've got this interview that you did with Tim Mayer, who is the American who has been embroiled with the president of the FIA, Mohammed bin Salem, and he's now running for the presidency. And Chris, you caught up with him when? Friday?
Yeah, it's Friday morning. So I actually was politely given a heads up from my good friends at Racer on Wednesday. Well, last weekend it was, but Wednesday when I found out who it was and could speak to Tim. So I spoke to him on Wednesday for Racer, and he told me then he was announcing Friday morning, and they held an announcement just outside the circuit here to say that he would be running.
Yeah, it's a huge job to be the president of the FIA and to lead all of that as well. But you're not the only high-profile former member of the FIA to have left over the last few years. That's caused some concern as well. How tough is it going to be for you running against Mohammed bin Salem later this year?
Well, first let me say that I think it's an incredible shame to see this brain drain from the FIA. Mohammed ran on the idea that he was going to recruit good people, and he did. He recruited some excellent people. There's a lady by the name of Natalie Robin who was recruited as CEO of the FIA. I had the privilege to work with her. She is fantastic. But these positions were made impossible. When you cannot say no, when you cannot disagree, when you cannot debate, that's not leadership, that's tyranny. And, that's what's been happening across the FIA. And we've seen it time and time again. We've seen really good people who've dedicated their lives and their careers to the FIA leaving the FIA. So that's a huge problem. How difficult it's going to be? Very difficult. The timing of this announcement is that it's just after the General Assembly of the members in Macau. So that's where the rules changed again in favor of Mohammed. But we now know the game. We now know what the rules are. So that's the timing of this announcement.
Yeah, Chris, give us your reaction to that.
Yeah, I think obviously I'd known for a couple of days, but prior to that, it was a bit of a relief to hear that there was going to be some opposition. Partly because as much as there's been a lot of dissent towards Mohammed bin Salem, if you don't have anyone go up against him, obviously that dissent will continue. But if he were to be successful, you've got to remember that this is not a popularity contest in terms of it's not up to the fans, it's not up to the teams, it's not up to Formula One, who the president is. It's just the FIA member clubs. So they have a very different viewpoints to the ones we have. Some of them have very vested interests, but they all have their own viewpoints. And that's what bin Salem has been working towards, trying to get the support among. I think Mayer's going to find it very tough trying to understand who he can and can't count on to vote for him in December if it gets that far, because the FIA nominations committee do get to vet him and look into his background and see if they feel there's any conflicts of interest or unprofessional conduct, I think is the term they've used, to see if they want to allow certain candidates to stand or not. And the current president does have essentially control over the nominations committee, has a big sway on them. So it could get pretty political there too. But the flip side is bin Salem said in Monaco to Reuters that he would welcome having a competition, to have someone else come up against him. He says that's democracy. So hopefully that's what we're going to see.
Yeah, but Jonathan, if you've got control of the nomination committee...
Yeah, I think he's talking out of both sides there a little bit. In terms of he's literally spent most of his reign trying to consolidate his power, so to speak. And that's what this job's all about. It really is almost a politician, especially when you're running for it. But I think Tim Mayer is the right caliber of guy to run. We saw him in a deep conversation with David Richards, who also has been mooted as a potential, but isn't running. as of yet.
Yeah.
But I do think that Tim's the kind of guy who, over his tenure, has probably got the support of most of the sport. Now, as Chris says, what we want and what we like as fans, journalists, etc., may be quite different than what a head of a FIA part of the world wants.
And let's talk about who gets to vote about this on this when it comes time, and it's all the groups, Chris,
it's all the ASNs,
all around the world, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, 135 of them or so. And that's where the politicking really comes in, because most of them, with the exception of the Europeans, the Americans, and so on, these are tiny organizations in countries with little to no actual motorsports. Of course, they have roads and highways, and the FIA conducts safety programs and so on. So there is a purpose for the FIA to be there. But the FIA can also channel favors in their direction right from the president's office, which kind of allies them to his side. It's an extremely political process. But that's something we're used to in Formula One. We always talk about how, the organization never goes anywhere without a strong hand on the tiller. And you had that with Bernie Ecclestone, and he made a lot of people bazillionaires. So, he had their support. But before him, Bernie was just FIA. His partner in adventures, if you will, was Max Mosley, and they worked hand in glove for a long time. But Max was very much a firm leader, not afraid to say this is the way it's going to be, which is not always entirely a bad thing. Before that, when I came into the sport in the 80s, you had a Frenchman named Jean-Marie Balès.
Oh, Balès,
who was, had Jean Todt. But when I came into it in the 80s, it was Jean-Marie Balès, who was an absolutely bombastic Frenchman, and led to the split. Led to the famous FISA-FOCA wars, including an event where all the drivers holed up in a hotel and refused to go drive the race. It's there's a long history of this kind of thing in Formula One, so you have to have that balance between telling people what's going to happen and taking into account their needs and desires as to what's going to happen. So you couldn't have a better resume, I should say, than Tim Mayer does. He's been a race organizer. He's been a steward. He's been in the U.S. military. He has served his country, and I think that's where his sensitivity, the idea of democracy over tyranny, comes from. I think he's absolutely the right man for this job. Whether or not he can get that job remains to be seen.
I'm just worried whether anyone can get this job. If you're in
it's very
power
tough.
and you have power to over the nomination committee, and I don't know. Chris, am I overly concerned about that issue?
Not. I think you should be concerned about it. Yes, I think a lot of people are. That's again another reason why Mayer is running. But at the same time, we are preempting something being found that people think is unfair to stop Mayer running, and we're not sure that's going to happen yet. So he knows it could, but he believes he's in a strong enough place. He says he's going into this not even concerned about that. He's going into it, fully expecting as such, or believing he will win. That's the only reason he would enter into the race. So something interesting he did say, though, because we had Carlos Sainz Sr. withdraw. Well, he showed an interest, didn't he, but never actually put forward a formal campaign. We had Mayer say that he believes the way everything's structured right now, you can only have one candidate going up against Ben Sulayem. You said that, if you have multiple, it's just not going to work the way things are structured. He says it should be that you could have multiple and they'd all have a fair chance at it. And that's how he wants it to be in the future. But he believes he needs to be the only one at this stage. Well, I say that he believes he will be the only one, but to have the best chance, he needs to be the only one. So it is pretty tricky on that front. And I've just been given the signal to get out of the pit lane. So I am going to run onto the grid.
All right, Chris, sounds good. Well, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break right now. But when we come back, Chris caught up with the American in F2, Jack Crawford, who won the feature race. You're listening to Speed City. Back after these messages. All right, checking in on YouTube. Right, let's see. Looks like TW has...
Sorry for that abrupt stop. I got a tap on the shoulder saying, you've got 1 minute.
Okay, don't worry about it, dude.
Chris, could anybody else get in the game on this, or is it a straight head-to-head now?
Oh, we may have lost Chris. There you go. TW. Hey, TW, are you, I see some spam hitting, but it's hidden. Are you taking care of that? I think TW, I made him an admin, so he's always here. He's like the furniture. Todd Dauber says, let's go racing. Totally agree. Should be a good one. Heck yeah, man. We got to get into that here in a second. Mike Bowles said, is that the man behind the glass? Morning, Casey. Ray is streaming from Chicago. All right. Chicago. Let's see. Oh, wow. Mike Bowles going there, going hard. Says, Dara, isn't that, I say, how Putin was created? Hey, I mean, it feels like it right now. I don't understand it well enough.
Ooh.
Yeah. All right. All those messages are being deleted. People trying to dump in there.
What's happening?
Oh, TW's got it taken care of, man. You know, people jump into a chat and
I see. Yeah.
They hit spam. So
yep.
TW's got it. He's got it all under control. Man, whenever we were talking about the weather a while ago, I just couldn't help but think about what's happening all around us here in Austin. I mean, you guys, if you've been anywhere near a television or social media, you've seen the disaster that's happened. I mean, that's literally a few, 30 minutes to an hour. Most of that has happened right around us.
Yeah.
And it's rained in Austin
I've
for
never
3
seen anything
straight.
like it, actually.
Yeah, well, and we just got lucky because it's only
I
rained
love a good
few
rainstorm,
inches.
but man.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me check anybody else here on YouTube. I think that's it. All right, coming back.
I'm George Russell, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Russell's been in the headlines, hasn't he?
Oh my God! I kind of this weekend I've kind of just really kind of paused and listened quite carefully to what he has to say, and he's choosing his words very, very carefully.
You're channeling me. This morning I was listening to George Russell on the. George Russell on the F1 official F1 TV interviews.
Yes.
And he was saying that he's not worried. Toto's always taking care of him. Toto has to take care of the thousands of other people within the Mercedes organization.
Which is a very clever way of saying he has to do what he has to do.
But he did say, I expect to be driving here. He said, regardless of who my teammate is.
Mm.
So in other words, he's saying if Max is coming, Max is taking Antonelli's seat.
Right.
The golden child who Toto Wolff loves to put his arm around and take care of more gently than anybody I've ever seen take care of a driver. So
I think for one thing, I certainly understand why Verstappen's looking. Makes sense. I don't see Red Bull as being the potent fire brand that they were coming into 26 with a new engine partner and a lack of, real design fast forward. They're struggling now and it's halfway through the season. And this car just is not what they want for anybody. Never mind, even Verstappen, not happy with it. And every weekend it's the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Chris Medland, I hear you out there. Before we get into this interview you did with Jack, anything else you want to jump into first?
Oh, well, just thought I've made it onto the back of the grid. Whether my signal holds up, we'll see. But when you've got 150, 160,000 people around you, it's pretty tricky. But the grandstands are already packed, completely full. It's a sight to behold, this place when it's full. But the sun's gone already. Those dark clouds are rolling in, so it really is about to rain. In fact, I'm feeling it now. The rain's just starting, so everyone's heading to the grid on wet tires anyway. But I think we're about to have a very fun 40 minutes before lights go out, and this is going to be an absolute cracker. So Jack had to deal with very similar conditions.
All right, his signal.
It's always the way, isn't it?
It's of course, but he caught up with Jack Crawford, the American.
Race where it was really hard for him.
All right, well, let's play that Jack Crawford.
Jack Crawford, race winner at Silverstone, home race for Aston Martin, Cadillac space over the road as well. Pretty good time to win a race, isn't it?
Yeah, amazing weekend, amazing timing as well, right when I needed to make a push for the championship. And it felt like a big weekend in the championship with me and Alex started at the front row, basically tied on points, and Richard starting down the field. And yeah, I was able to execute and get the win. And yeah, what a day for the championship, what a day in general, kind of like my second home race, obviously not having any races in the US. So yeah, it's a great day.
And you did it in such tricky conditions, perfect British weather for you. Lots of rain, then it was drying, then it rained again. Just how tough was it out there?
Oh, it was so tough to judge what to do next. You know, me and my engineer for about 6 laps straight was talking the radio open the entire time for 6 laps, basically trying to talk about what we need to do, talk about the tire choice, you know, wet or do we go hard tire, soft tire? I mean, you know, and what we need for each tire. So, you know, the call wasn't easy, and then we saw the opportunity. Alex was obviously very close and you know, in range for an overtake, and of course we saw the yellow on track, so we thought it was a perfect time to get in the pits and try to get a cheap pit stop.
And there's a late safety car as well on a 2-lap sprint to the end. Was that a bit of relief that you're like, okay, the job's done now?
Yeah, it was relief, but actually I felt like I had really good pace when we put on those new tires. Like my pace was dropping away because I have a lot of deg on the first set, but you know, then my restart was really good and I had great pace. I was actually trying to go for fastest lap point, so it's a shame that the race didn't stay green for that. But yeah, I mean, relief when the safety car came, because you never know what's going to happen.
And you didn't get the fastest lap point, but you did close to within 6 points of Richard Verschoor at the top of the championship. Does it feel real now? Does it feel within touching distance so you can fight for this title?
Yeah, I mean, after the next race we do, I could be leading championship. So, yeah, we're in it now. And, you know, after Austria, I felt like I was behind. You know, we needed to come here and make a statement and get big points. And, you know, that's exactly what we did.
And I mentioned the guys over the road. Aston Martin must be impressed with your progress and what you're doing. And I believe maybe that will give you a chance in FP1 at some stage. But Cadillac 2 have a big presence here right now. So do you feel like you're showing all the right things to everybody?
Yeah, I think a race like this is perfect to show what I've got. You know, one of the trickiest races with, you know, Alex, who's highly rated, and Luke right behind me. So I think it was a perfect race for that, to show that, you know, I can drive in wet weather conditions. I can deal with adversity. So I hope they all see that.
Well done this weekend, and we'll see you in Spa.
Thank you.
Think about this for a second.
Yeah.
We've been doing this, 13 years?
Yeah.
This kid's from Houston, Texas.
I know.
And he's on the verge of making it to Formula One as either the F2 champion or the F2 runner-up. Ahead of Lindblad, ahead of Antonelli last year, you know, and Behrman.
Well, let's not forget the end of that storybook story you're just saying, and that is he could be
Cadillac.
racing for Cadillac.
It's just, and I hate to say it, but Herta, which was the dream for everybody, is kind of, I mean, he's qualified well for today's race at Mid-Ohio, but I think he's ninth in the championship.
No,
it needs to be top 4.
Yeah, it's not looking good, and he's the way he's talking, it doesn't seem like that this is going to happen for him right now. So
I'm going to steal a headline from one of the British papers here. They've called it Silverstone.
Silverstone?
That's one of the headlines for the British Grand Prix. Silverstone.
Okay, I like that.
That's clever, huh?
I thought that was a play. At first, I thought you were a play on George Russell's jacket. This shiny
That's a Silverstone, yeah.
Hey, go ahead. Hey, Bob Varsha, I think you're muted, buddy. But unless Casey's got you muted, but look, we've got 40 minutes, like Chris said. The rain looks like it's any moment. By the way, there's the cavalcade of stars. Who was that, Jonathan?
That's Spider-Man. That's Superman.
Superman, Spider-Man. One of the.
No, it's Tom. That guy.
I don't know who that was, but anyway, I was hoping
he's famous.
He's a famous guy.
Look, the only big star there is the rain, because that's how we roll in Great Britain.
Let's check in with Chris.
Oh, and it's raining right now.
There you go.
It's coming down right now as well. So I'm hiding I'm actually in Ollie Behrman's pit box.
There you go.
Underneath a gazebo to stay dry. So yeah, it started raining, which also again took out the phone signal, but we're back. And there's a lot of excitement here. I tell you, it's weird, but the fans kind of had a half cheer with the fact that it started raining. I think they know that this just creates excitement and drama. And if there's one person in the top 6 who wanted rain today, well, 2 maybe, it's Lewis Hamilton and it's George Russell. Because for Russell, he needs a wet mix-up race, I think, to have the pace to be able to fight with the McLarens and Verstappen. For Hamilton, he had that pace in the Ferrari, but starting 5th, it was going to be tough in the dry. He was looking forward to a bit of rain. So I think the home fans are going to be pretty pleased to see this weather right now.
Yeah, it certainly makes for an interesting start. Strategy-wise, what do you think? I mean, everybody's been saying it in the interviews, Chris, that McLaren can be in a position to create the best strategy to get them the win ahead of Verstappen. How do they do that?
They don't anymore. They would have been. It would have been a one-stop. I think would have been the best way. Medium then hard would have been the way to go. And because it wasn't borderline, but it wasn't easy to do a one-stop. Your tyres do take a hammering around here because it's a high-speed circuit. Then that would have lent more to a McLaren advantage. But now with this rain, everyone's going to be on intermediate tyres, and weirdly that goes 2 ways. It's because switching them on, getting them to be warm and give you grip in the wet can be a big advantage. Now, we actually saw at different times. Think of how strongly Mercedes came on here last year because McLaren were very kind on their tyres. Mercedes very hard on them. That's why Mercedes struggle when it's hot. But when it was raining and damp and cool last year here, you remember the McLarens were at the front and then the Mercedes came through, hit the front, and it would ebb and flow at different times of the race because it's what suit the Mercedes more at certain points. So I actually think McLaren's kind of lost some of its advantage here with these conditions. A good car is always a good car, but I think it's a bit more of a leveler. And it's raining pretty heavily right now. So it's going to certainly be at least an intermediate tyre start.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Here comes Behrman from 18th.
Let's check in with Bob Varsha. Bob, I was checking the clock. We're gonna get to your grid in the next segment, but
oh sure,
yeah. Well, we decided to move it back to its traditional spot so Chris could get some interviews, so we could spark some activity.
Okay, I see where I stand in the new run plan. Not a problem.
Hey, Bob, if this rain continues, this is going to shake up our predictions at the end of the show.
No kidding.
Speak for yourself. I mean, we all know what Max Verstappen can do in the rain.
Yeah,
I mean, he's pretty much a legend in that category right now. The McLaren guys are a little bit more of a question mark, I think. This is Lewis's favorite racetrack, so even though he's starting back in 5th, he can certainly come forward. Charles Leclerc is just so pissed off right now that there's no telling what he could do. And, George Russell grew up in England. So as Jonathan says, if you're English and you spend any time in your home country, you know how to deal with rain.
Yeah, no kidding.
I hate to sound like the biased Brit as well on this show, but Luke Browning today in the F2 race, British driver, came through from 12th on the grid, finished 3rd. And for most of that F2 race, was the quickest guy on the track by a long way. And he put it down to experience, having been here so many times in the wet, thousands of laps. He said, we're just lucky. We run on this track a lot, but we run in these conditions a lot too.
Yeah, it's the truth.
Hey, Chris, I want to ask you about the attendance. Apparently, 500,000 people are going to be there over the weekend, 168,000 today. That's a new record, apparently. But I was thinking about this number. It's just a massive number. How many of these... what do you think is causing this? Do you think it's Drive to Survive? Do you think it's part of the movie, or is it just? And I wonder how many people are coming from outside the UK to visit and go to such an iconic race. What's going on?
I think it's a bit of all of that, and maybe not the movie. That's a bit too recent, but certainly Drive to Survive. Certainly there was a huge fan base here anyway. So many British drivers on the grid right now for them to be able to get behind. And you've also then got to factor in the fact that at the front you've got McLaren, who have got a big UK-based support network, and Lando Norris fighting for a championship. Lewis Hamilton in a Ferrari. There's so much for British fans to get behind, but they're very knowledgeable. We were talking about it on yesterday's show, that they do appreciate everybody and good racing. And I think you just add those things together. Plus, there's been a demand the whole time here, I'd say. But Silverstone has done a great job of just growing the capacity, finding more space to get people in, to add car parking, to add grandstands, to keep growing it. It does make traffic a bit of a challenge, but they've handled it pretty well, I must say, this year. And noticeably, there's a lot more stuff on the infield, big tents and things on the outfield, marquees, loads of additional structures to accommodate more people. So they're just managing to invest in it. And that's what Liberty allows races to do by giving them these long-term contracts.
Wow.
And here's another thing. As a Brit, I started going to Silverstone on a regular basis to work when Blundell and Brundle were the sort of, the names that British drivers. Damon Hill was just starting with Brabham. There wasn't any. Johnny Herbert, and then it started to grow. But when you consider 3 Brits, Norris, Russell, and Hamilton, are all in the top 5, are multiple world champion or race winners. Britain's never had it so good, and there's just 0.2 of a second between the top 5. So the fans haven't had it so good. So it doesn't surprise me at all that 500,000 people want to be part of this. We've always had a hero, whether it be Mansell, whether it be Hamilton or Coulthard, but never have we had such a legion of young Brits too. All right, Hamilton's not that young, but add Behrman to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we really do have some huge British talent now.
I was just thinking about this number, 500,000 people. 500,000 people in the United States, like we get at COTA, close to that, 450. But compared to the size of the United States versus the UK, it's just crazy.
And I think there's an economic feel to this as well, which is that I think Brits are suffering with high inflation like everybody else, and so I think the sort of standard going to Spain, going to France for the summer could be replaced by a week's camping at Silverstone.
There you go. All right, well, let's get a quick break in. You're listening to Speed City F1. Back after these messages. All right, let's see. TW's doing the job blocking. Mike's going to send him a check for helping out. Bill Ricker says, same democracy problem as the Olympic Committee and FIFA. Deposing the guy who writes the checks to small nations is structurally impossible.
Yeah. That's the best analogy, actually.
Man, Bill, with the big brain coming in this morning. And TW says, they sent me a hat when the show first started on YouTube. Probably cost them quite a bit to send the hat here. Definitely more than the hat is worth. I'll wear it proudly all over the country. Wow, TW, that's really nice.
And I don't know if TW is aware of this, but we've had our first Thai winner this weekend.
Where?
F3.
Okay.
Intrapuzak.
Okay, bless you.
Thank you. His father used to race. I used to commentate on his father.
TW, you let me know if that one gets worn out, because I know hats get worn out. Jonathan's looks like it's been run through the ringer, and we'll send you a new one. We'll send you a fresh one. We haven't changed the design, no.
We need to change some.
Mike Bowles is very observant. He says Bob Varsha seems to be holding back. We're having mic troubles.
Wait, we're just warming him up.
But we got it now. We got it.
I'm fine. You guys are excited, and that's fine. And,
all right. I thought you had mic troubles. I saw you talking and nothing coming across. So anyway,
this friggin' thing is driving me nuts. I can't seem to get it all lined up. So
Andy P's here.
I got a steering wheel in my pants.
Okay.
It's driving me nuts.
Are you happy to see me, or is that a steering driving me nuts? Andy P, morning, folks. Looks like it's definitely raining. Yep, it is definitely raining. Man, the spam is hitting us hard, but TW's all over it.
Why have they chosen now to spam?
Oh, they see, I put in the tags F1 live stream, and I've been doing that for years just to maybe try to get some folks, but maybe that's deceiving. And anyway, all right, here we go.
Hi, this is Max Verstappen, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Right now, with zero commitment, try Oracle Cloud Infrastructure for free. Head to oracle.com/formula. That's oracle.com/free. All right, oracle.com/formula. Excuse me, oracle.com/formula. All right, guys, we got, 24 minutes before the start of the race. And Bob Varsha, do you want to run down the grid and get everybody fired up and ready for this race?
Okay, I shall do so. Let's start. Row 1, P1, Max Verstappen for Red Bull. After finishing 10th, 5th, and 3rd in the 3 practices, all of them led by a Ferrari or a McLaren, The champ unleashed a flawless lap to claim his 44th career pole and 4th of the year, but his first since Miami 6 races ago. P2, Oscar Piastri for McLaren, sharing the front row with Verstappen for the 3rd time this season. The Aussie has shown winning speed all weekend, but it will likely take a mistake-free race, especially in the rain, to beat the Red Bull and his own teammate. That, of course, is Lando Norris, who starts P3 inside row 2, 15 points behind Piastri for the championship, with Verstappen breathing down his neck, Norris's that is, to the tune of just 6 points as we reach the halfway point of the season today. P4, George Russell for Mercedes, just 11 markers behind Max for 3rd in the title chase. But the question on everybody's lips this weekend, obviously, is where the 4-time race winner will drive next season. Row 3, P5, Lewis Hamilton in the first of the Ferraris, fastest in the first practice Friday, 9 Silverstone victories on his resume, but a tiny error on track leaves Sir Lewis 1 spot short of his season-best grid spot. P6 is his teammate, Charles Leclerc, in the second Ferrari, the leader in practice 3 on Saturday. And I'd tell you what Captain Monaco said when his final push lap fell short, but this is a family show. I'm just not getting the job done was the clean part. Let's leave it at that. Row 4, P7, Fernando Alonso on the Aston Martin. Christmas came early for the Spaniard, who timed in 9th, but picked up 2 grid spots when the drivers ahead of him were penalized. P8, Pierre Gasly in the Alpine. The Frenchman finished 19th, 18th, and 20th in the 3 practices, then logged a slowish lap in Q3 for 10th before the penalties to others moved him up. That is racing luck. Row 5, P9, Carlos Sainz and Williams, just 35 thousandths of a second out of advancing from Q2. On the bright side, Sainz outqualified teammate Alex Albon for the 5th time this season. P10 is Kimi Antonelli in the Mercedes, one of 2 out-of-position starters mentioned earlier. The young Italian timed in 7th, then moved back 3 places for T-boning Verstappen out of the race in Austria last Sunday. Row 6, P11, Yuki Tsunoda in the Red Bull. If ever there was a qualifying result that embodies the performance gap between the Red Bull drivers, this may be it. Verstappen puts the less-than-perfect car on pole, while Yuki came home 12th, then bumped up 1 spot in the driver's shuffle. P12 is Isak Hajar in the Racing Bull. Right there with the second RBR car is stellar rookie Hajar, less than 1/10 of a second down in Q2, and no doubt wanting a lot more today. P13 inside row 7 is Alex Albon in the second Williams. A last-minute setup change for Albon, apparently at his request, went sideways, and Silverstone 2025, as we've already learned this weekend, allows for no mistakes. P14 is Esteban Ocon in the first of the Haas cars. The boss, Gene Haas, is on track this weekend. In fact, he's going to drive one of their older cars if he hasn't already. But the fact that starting ahead of teammate Ollie Behrman is misleading, as I'll tell you in a moment. Row 8, P15, Liam Lawson in the Racing Bull. Another lost qualifying for the Kiwi, as Lawson was a full 0.3 of a second off of Ocon's time ahead of him. P16, Gabriel Bortoleto from Sauber. Now, a week after putting 2 cars in the points in Austria, it was back to Q1 elimination for both cars for the Swiss team. So one's got to wonder whether their gambling sponsor offered odds on them going from 8th and 9th last Sunday to 16th and 19th, getting ready for today's race. Row 9 is P17, Lance Stroll, Aston Martin. The beat goes on for the boss's son at Aston. 1 appearance in Q1 this season, 2 in Q2. All the other races found him in the final 5. P18 is Oliver Behrman in the Haas. Now, this is a weird one. The rookie put up a lap good for 8th on the grid, by far his best of the year. But a red flag violation in practice 3 saw him hit the pit wall at the entrance, earning the rookie a 10-place grid drop and, more importantly, 4 penalty points, bringing him to 8 total. On row 10, inside is Nico Hülkenberg of the Sauber. Same story as teammate Bortoleto. Where did all of that Austrian performance go? And P20, starting from the pit lane, Franco Colapinto. Franco, who followed up a big new sponsorship announcement this week with Mexican mobile company Claro by throwing the car off the track in Q1 and, one has to assume, making the walk of shame back to explain why it happened to his new sponsors. That's the lineup.
All right,
Good
Mr.
stuff,
Varsha,
as always.
fantastic. Jonathan, British automotive royalty on television right now.
Yes, Jeremy Clarkson, of course, from Top Gear fame and fortune, and always at the British Grand Prix, as is Gordon Ramsay and a few others. They tend to have the same. It's Caleb Cooper.
No idea who that is.
No idea. TV personality, but I've been so far removed from the UK that I don't know who all the new kids on the block are.
Hey, did you see this weekend that Lewis Hamilton showed up to his brother's race?
In touring cars.
Yeah, and he showed up incognito. He wore it was typical British weather. Again, it was raining and cool, and he had on a giant jacket with a huge hat.
That wouldn't attract anybody's attention.
Well, no, but everybody was.
Right away,
so
Lewis Hamilton.
You couldn't see who it was, but everybody was in them though. So. Hey, speaking of weather, Chris Medland's mic is lighting up out there. Chris, what's going on, buddy?
It stopped raining finally. So I made it to the front of the grid. I mean, the outfit's great. Music is blasting out here.
We're losing him.
I don't speak that language.
Oh, bummer, Chris. We should have known it was going to be this way.
Aware, but awake.
Yeah, we're gonna. Hey,
so they're blaring out Wonderwall right now.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to.
It's a great atmosphere.
We're just getting enough to want to tease us. All right, we're gonna let Chris go because we're not being able to get him. Jonathan, what's the actress's name on television?
It's Hannah Beddington or whatever it is. She is, of course, Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso, yeah. The team owner.
Former Broadway singer, actually.
Yeah. So
that's Hannah Waddingham?
Yes, Waddingham. That's the one.
Waddingham, yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Hannah Waddingham.
Well, look, we're not getting Chris right now. I know that it's really disappointing with with where he is right now.
Well, it's such a rich environment right now.
I know, exactly.
We'll get him.
But I tell you what, Chris did. We got a clip here.
There he is.
There he is.
He's talking to Zach Brown.
Oh, he's recording Zach Brown for us right now. There we go. Perfect. But Chris caught up with, speaking of Zach Brown, Chris caught up with Oscar Piastri. And, Oscar's calm demeanor that we always talk about. It's really been one of the biggest stories this year about how calm he remains. And Chris caught up with him to talk about that exact topic with Oscar Piastri.
Your demeanor, you seem so calm, so controlled. Is that something that just comes naturally to you and therefore it fits this scenario? Or is it something you actually also work on as part of your development as a person and a driver?
Both. I think it does come naturally to an extent. I think, just from my personality and maybe just from, I guess, some of the life experiences in some ways. Coming from Australia and moving to Europe quite early on, I learned how to do a few things myself, I guess. So I think there's some of that, but there is a lot of hard work that goes into it as well. I'm not, immune to emotions or unhelpful emotions, let's say. So I have to work at it as well, but definitely I think there is a natural element of it that comes pretty easily, and that's a nice starting point to have. But it's in some ways the same as having natural talent. If you don't continue to keep working on that, everyone else is going to catch up to you and go past you. So I work on it as well.
The fact that he's actually working on that too,
there is a work in progress. Yeah, no question.
Well, yeah, it's part of their training, right? Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah. There's a great article in Motorsport magazine this week about Jan Magnussen. Who started out, was declared by Sir Jackie Stewart, no less, to be the greatest thing since Ayrton Senna.
Yes.
And it just never went anywhere. And he admits very, very frankly in this interview that he just never worked on his talent. It all came so easy that he just didn't think he needed to do anything. Plus, he didn't work on his fitness, and he was a smoker at the time. He took it all for granted and learned the hard lesson. But he had a great career, which is great for him and his young family. But he was very much a coulda, woulda, shoulda been Formula One racer.
Mm. Hey, one story that we've talked about Cadillac several times with reference to Jack Crawford and such. But did you see the news that came out this week where they let everybody in kind of behind the scenes? And Chris was over there and everything, and The thing that struck me the most was how the Graham Loudon, the new team principal, said that they modeled it after the NASA Apollo project. They're modeling their ramp up and how, because there's so many systems to get right. I mean, launching a Formula One team in today's world where you're going to try to be competitive right off the bat, it's amazing.
Yeah, and also when you think about timelines, NASA does have those sort of 6-year, 10-year timelines, which Formula One, if you are starting a team, has to be where you're looking, because you can't you just can't plan for 2 years, because you're already behind. If that's your window, you've got to have a 5-year plan going in at least.
Yeah, and using the NASA model, I'd be a good one. All right, guys, let's get a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have 15 minutes less than that to get you ready for the British Grand Prix. Right after this. All right, let's check connections with Chris Medland. Hey, Chris, how's it going, buddy?
We got 2 microphones that don't work today.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, I'm watching the live feed, and there's a lot of blue sky out there
right
now.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's starting to look better, and the red arrows are here. So
is that what the red arrows? Is that what they
red
call
arrows?
That's their version of the Blue Angels.
Yes,
the red arrows.
Red arrows.
Everybody's
there is a lot of blue sky right now.
Yeah.
Chris shows he's connected, but we're getting nothing from him right this moment.
Well,
who is that tall actor? No, I don't know who that is.
No,
anyway, hey, we got some good comments on YouTube. Sorry, guys.
It's Jack Whitehall, the comedian.
Carl says, "Love seeing Chris."
The preseason O2 Arena.
Oh, that's right, he did, didn't he? Yeah.
Listen to this one, guys. Carl, he says, "Love seeing Chris on F1 TV. Love knowing him on Speed City first." That's
there you
cool.
Go.
Yeah. What else? Real Ricker, more coffee, more banana for minerals. There you go. All right. What else?
They have an interesting dialogue.
Yes. We got Zach.
Let's
Brown.
get that on.
Yeah, Chris has dropped off again.
Well, he's sending us.
Kevin Kelly says Jack White, I guess is who that was.
No, that's not Jack White.
Jack White. He's a guitarist.
He's a guitarist, yeah.
Stripes.
That's Jack Whitehall.
TW says, tuck in your shirt tail, Chris. Hey, Andy Brinker says, get Chris
Van
a
Diesel's
Speed City
there.
hat to wear on F1 TV. Yeah, we thought of that. That's not allowed.
What?
To get him a Speed City hat to wear on F1 TV.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Pay attention.
Pay attention, 007.
Exactly. All right, here we go. Coming back. Hold on. Okay, thank you. I would have forgotten.
I'm Liam Lawson, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
In business, they say you can have better, cheaper, or faster, but you only get to pick 2. What if you could have all 3 at the same time? That's exactly what Cohere, Thomson Reuters, and Specialized Bikes have since they upgraded to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. OCI is the blazing fast platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs, where you can run any workload in a high availability, consistently high performance environment and spend less than you would with other clouds. How is it faster? OCI's block storage gives you more operations per second. Cheaper? OCI costs up to 50% less for compute, 70% less for storage, and 80% less for networking. Better? In test after test, OCI customers report lower latency and higher bandwidth versus other clouds. This is the cloud built for AI and all your biggest workloads. Right now, with zero commitment, try OCI for free. Head to oracle.com/formula. That's oracle.com/formula. All right, we got 10 minutes left. We see the pole sitter on television, Max Verstappen. And we talked about it in our post-qualifying show, but yesterday, that pole lap from Max, one of those things of beauty, wasn't it?
It was sublime, and I don't know whether we're being led down a garden path here, because every Friday it's doom and gloom, and
every Friday he was doom and gloom 3 minutes before that. I mean, literally true. 3 minutes on the radio, he said, this car is so difficult. I mean, it was 3 or 4 minutes before he set this incredible
And they go
lap.
on about balance, and they go on about just it being undrivable, understeering, and then he puts it on the pole.
Yeah, just amazing for Max.
I think what's amazing about it is the two, I mean, it's no fluke. The two McLarens, you can't have guys. It's 0.2 between the top five, 0.2 of a second. So, it's not like the McLarens had bad laps or made a mistake. I mean, it's hard to even see where they went wrong and how he beat them. And that, I mean, they played, actually, I was watching last night, they played the camera in the commentary booth for F1 TV, and Coulthard was just apoplectic. Yeah. He couldn't believe it. He's like, where did that come from? He couldn't speak. No.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, Chris, I hear your mic lighting up. How are you, sir?
Hello. I'm good. I will admit, I just ran back onto the grid after everyone was clearing off to try and get a word with Ao Komatsu, because I'm quite interested to see what Haas can do today with the pace they've shown. And he is in very serious engineering. It's drying up. It's the sun's coming out again. There's blue skies ahead. It's going to be a lottery today. And engineers, teams, they don't like that quite often. They want like data that they can follow. They want to know like their best course of action, and they don't know it right now. And I can feel the nerves around me. It's brilliant.
So is it Plan C chaos?
It might be more than even that, I'd say, today. I think it's just Plan S, survive at the start.
Oh, very good, very good.
It's just like, it's Plan G, isn't it? It's gamble. It's when do you make your pit stop? When do you go for slicks? Because the big thing, and I did that little hit with F1 TV when I disappeared earlier. Ruth Buscombe was next to me, the former strategist at Alfa Romeo. And the word crossover was used a lot, because that is going to be the key picks. And you want to be first on them, where you don't lose too much time at first, but then you get that gain, but then everyone else will follow because you're getting that gain. So we're going to see someone gamble early. And I think really early. I mean, now that the wind and the rain is blowing through and we're getting blue skies and sunshine, it's much warmer. So it won't be long into this race, I don't think. That within the first 10 laps, maybe, we might get our first pit stop for slicks.
Wow.
And that can be devastating when when somebody makes the right call.
Yes.
And
a
good lap. You can gain positions, you can open time gaps. But I was just looking at the F1 TV feed with closed captioning, and Zach Brown said they're expecting more rain later in the race.
All right. Well, speaking of Zach Brown, let's hear from Zach Brown, because Chris caught up with him during the last break and recorded. Let's hear from Zach Brown, McLaren's CEO, right now.
I've got Zach Brown here, and Zach, two cars at the front, but neither of them on pole position. It's an amazing atmosphere right now. How badly do you want to get to the front and win this race?
This is going to be an epic British Grand Prix. Hundreds of thousands of fans here. Two great racing drivers and one great racing team, surrounded by four other drivers that I think can win this race. So it's going to be exciting.
What's the weather doing for your car? Is this good or bad for you, do you think?
Indifferent. We're fine with any weather conditions. I just hope that by the time we get going that it's the equal level of dampness on both sides to make sure Oscar gets a good start from P2.
How hard is it, though, to balance like fairness between the two of them when you've got four threats rather than just maybe one car or none?
I think, we discussed it this morning, and I think it's a bit hard to have teamwork come in too early. But you got to see what happens after the first lap. But I think the first lap, everyone man for himself.
And just finally, you got to drive out here, didn't you? And Williams, how was that?
That was pretty awesome.
Wow. Well done with that. Good luck today.
Thank you.
All right. You know what? Chris Medland caught up with Oscar Piastri, who was talking about the topic exactly that he was just talking about with Zach Brown there, about competition between their teammates. And we've seen this boiling up, right? Is it going to boil over? But let's hear from Oscar Piastri right now.
You were asked today in a press conference that if you wanted revenge for Melbourne by winning at Silverstone. People have tried to create a narrative at times that you two are fighting really hard. You've dealt with it very well. But what's it really like within the car when you're fighting your teammate?
I think for me, I'm never going to race my teammate harder than I would race anyone else. I think that's kind of the number one rule that is where the downfall starts to happen. And I've had... maybe I've not had teammates in the past, but I've certainly seen people in the past that race their teammates harder than others, and it can create a lot of tension and a lot of friction. And for me, that's just never how I'm going to go about racing my teammate. But I think, obviously you ideally try to leave a bit more space, but at the same time, you know that you're fighting them for a championship. that only one of you can win. So you don't want to be too nice at the same time. But I think for us, it's very clear what's acceptable and what's not. We always are pushing right up to that line, but trying to not step over it. That's the key thing. And if we do, then always acknowledging it and kind of responding in an appropriate way. That's an important thing as well. So yeah, never race them harder, but if you're going to race them a bit softer than anyone else, it's certainly not by much.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's a word sausage, isn't it? There's a lot of words being said between these two. And
there was a lot of words. Yes.
Well, it's all very polite.
Word sausage.
Yeah, it's just Mike Tyson springs to mind. It's all very well until somebody punches you in the face.
Hey, Chris, how's your signal, buddy? As if on cue. All right, we got 3 minutes.
Right now it's good, but I'm about to go underneath the main pit building where I will lose you.
Okay. All right, well, that's fine. Look, we got about 3 minutes left in the show. If we get you back, great. If we don't, then we'll talk to you on the other side.
We need predictions.
Yeah, we'll give us a minute or two before that. But look, let's Chris writes an article for F1, what to look for, Jonathan, and I'm going to throw it to you on the spot. What are we going to look for? Bob alluded to some of it already with tires.
The key to this race could literally be the starts. Verstappen's the start here, because obviously straight line pace is there. The conditions are the same for everybody. He's a demon in the wet, but so too are the top five. So I do think Ferrari are going to be more of a factor than they were, given the weather, and I think even Ferrari thought that last night, listening to the press conferences and to the conversations being had. That said, Roaring Russell could come through. I mean, that's the beauty of it. We really do have any one of the top. I mean, Alonso could have a bonsai time out there today.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton.
Yep.
I mean, we just don't know. Bob, what can you add to that?
Well, I think Alonso's probably praying for rain, because I was looking at the Pirelli information this morning. Of all the drivers in the field, Alonso is the only one who does not have a single solitary set of fresh rubber in any of the three forms, hard, medium, or soft. So he's going to be up against it. I'm sure he's hoping for it to rain, but this is going to be different. Drivers in the rain typically run off the line to get better grip from the less used asphalt. And if the rain is coming and going and drivers are switching strategies, it's going to be a real test of the team, both along the pit wall and in the race car.
Yep.
Just to jump in there, if I'm not on a massive delay for Bob, don't forget, though, Aston Martin quite often scrub a set of tyres. So they show up as used, but they're not used, really, so that they're still fresh enough. I think they only do that with a set of the mediums. So, yeah, I think they should have a set of those that are technically used still for when we need slicks.
All right, well, let's get our predictions in. And, Greeny, you ready to start?
Yep.
Go ahead, buddy.
This is going to be very boring. Verstappen, Piastri, Norris.
Okay, Bob Varsha.
I'm going to say Piastri, Verstappen, Hamilton.
All right, and I'll go next and give Chris the last word. I am going to say, in the rain, George Russell wins at home, followed by Oscar Piastri and Lewis Hamilton. How about that for a top three? Chris, go ahead, buddy.
Oh, I'm going to go for the old romantics. I'm going to go for Lewis Hamilton to win ahead of Oscar Piastri and Max Verstappen.
Ah, brilliant. All right. What's that, Bob?
I said could be.
Could be any one of those. There's some rain in the mix. We just
Anything could be.
That's
Don't
right.
Put a fiver on it. Come on. Money where your mouth is, Chris.
Chris, one last look up in the sky. What do you see?
Sunshine. It's going to dry out.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in, but stay right here for the race here on Channel 81. But come back after the race, because we have a live post-race show with all there was in the race. You're listening to Speed City. We'll talk to you after the race.